Hey everybody, my name is Pat. We're here at Super Chief Studios, and this is Jay.
Yes. Hello.
This is Kevin.
I'm Kevin.
These guys have a huge video game collection just outside. We're going to be building a museum here at Super Chief Studios, but what we got for you here is a show we're starting called Pop Culture Preservation, where we take old video games and cultural artifacts, just anything under the geekdom.
Yeah.
And we just talk about it. Today we're going to be talking about Nintendo. Love it or hate it, they've made some mistakes, and we're gonna highlight some of them.
I mean, I'm a fan of Nintendo. I love Nintendo, and I will say this for the record: any company that's been open since 1889 is bound to make some mistakes. But Jesus, they have made some mistakes.
I agree. I've played Nintendo since I was a little kid. Grew up with the N64 because I'm a little young, and yeah, I've had every system since then. But some of them, not that great.
Not so much.
Boy, oh boy. No, I've had just about every one of them since the original NES, and it's a love-hate relationship with them. And they're not helping me with recent updates to the Switch.
No, they're not.
Big boo-boo.
Switch came out after pretty underwhelming Wii U. Just lifespan. I think the Switch has already sold more units than the Wii U has moved in its entire lifespan, and they've only been out
year and a half
not
now.
even 18
Yeah.
months.
It's amazing to see Nintendo be back on top, really. I mean, they've done a wonderful job what they're doing, but they're already starting to show that classic sign of Nintendo.
What's that? It's that 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Nintendo needs to let us know, like, hey, we're not listening.
Yes, we don't.
I know you
really
thought
care.
we were. I know Breath of the Wild was great, but
We did a great job with the NES Mini, but except for the production.
Except for immediately
did we need to make more than
discontinuing
5? You guys want Nintendo games? Oh, who knew?
Yeah, I've got a great idea. Why don't we take a product that's cost-effective, that would give many families of low income a great product that they can enjoy with their children. Oh, and we'll make 10 of them. That's fantastic. Thank you, Nintendo.
People don't really like Nintendo products that much. We don't need that many.
I don't. They never fly off the shelves.
I think this week's announcement though is just atypical Nintendo not listening to their audience. I think I'm gonna defer to Kevin here because he's far more articulate than I or Pat.
Okay, so we love the Switch. The Switch is a great system. Everyone has had a fantastic time with it. It does have just a couple of glaring faults, though. Things like you can't back up your games. Your system basically has to be saved on the actual unit itself. You can't back them up to the cloud. You can't copy that over to an SD card or a USB drive, anything like that.
And one of the biggest selling points of the Switch is the fact that it is a handheld.
Right, it's
And-
meant to be stolen from you.
Yeah, you're gonna. I don't know if you've been to New York, but they snatch it right out your hands.
There's been one stolen from this very facility.
I watch bullies steal these on a daily basis. I got a weird hobby. But, so they've decided to come out with a wonderful solution for that. They will charge you $20 a year for backup saves. Now, this comes along with their online service, which is fantastic and all. In some ways, you still need a cell phone, and if you want to actually talk to other people, there are still friend codes, so they're not really listening to people that much. But that is the only way you can back up your save data.
They also announced, along with the online service, that they would not be doing a virtual console on the Switch, which I think came as a surprise to a lot of the fans.
Very shocked to hear that, actually.
What-
I thought that's where they were going.
What console would be better to play all the old games in Nintendo's catalog, but the one that can
actual-
run them all in a portable
You mean the
environment?
actual Nintendo console? The old Nintendo games? Yeah, it's disappointing to hear. But like I said, we talk about the past of Nintendo, especially in the gaming industry. They just have had so many mistakes and errors and missteps, and we've got quite a few examples of that right in front of us.
And God help us, we love them though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we'd talk about them this much if we didn't love them.
I'm a fan of the shit shows. I'm not gonna lie to you. To be honest with you.
They make it interesting, and they started off early. I mean, they've got every single system they've produced has been expandable in some way or another. Even going back to the original NES, if you ever look at the bottom of that, there's a little thing you can pry off where theoretically you could pop on an accessory. They did it in Japan for a couple things. They added a disk drive underneath, and they added an internet modem that you could pop onto the top of it and do things like check the weather and
the stocks
and bet on horses.
Yeah.
Because when I'm done playing a rousing game of Super Mario Brothers horse betting,
Why wasn't that on the NES Classic? If I could do off-track betting with the NES Classic.
Well, I can hack it for you. We can crack.
Oh, that'd be great. Could you?
Do that. Oh yeah. I love it. We'll go right to Belmont with it. I can't wait. I think that some of the missteps that Nintendo's made is some of the great things they've done. They've kept in Japan. You're talking about the expansion ports and not being utilized in the American markets or the European markets. I do think it's hilarious that you could, like you said, flip over the NES and you have these ports, and there's nothing. You can't use them with anything. So that's a misstep in itself. But I think we've got some far more profound mistakes. I think one of them might surprise you because it was one of Nintendo's most successful consoles, but I think we're going to start with the N64.
Oh, sure. So the N64, it was a fun system. It happened because they had a falling out with Sony. They were going to have a system with a disc. They ended up falling back on the old cartridges that they've made year in, year out. Their thinking was basically you have better load times with a cartridge, which is absolutely true. And they were a little tentative on getting into the whole CD drive sort of thing.
There was a little bit of insidiousness to it as well. At the time, Nintendo had a monopoly, basically, with gaming, home gaming. So they were like, all right, if we go CD-based, it's going to cost the manufacturer, a third-party manufacturer, to make a CD for 30 cents at their cost. But if we stick to cartridge, then we can sell that proprietary cartridge to that said manufacturer for, let's say, don't quote me on the exact number, let's say at the time maybe $5 to $6. That's a huge bite into someone's profit, which led to third parties not creating games.
Oh, just jumping ship. So you're looking at basically a library of, depending on how you count it, around 296 games or so for the console, which is not by any means one of their largest. So another thing they did was expansion ports.
Oh, they love the expansion ports.
So the big red thing on the top, that's going to be a third-party expansion port to add about 4 megs of RAM to the system, so you can play all the games you actually want to play on it, like Donkey Kong. And then way underneath in the bottom, where the part that no one ever looks at, is another expansion port for something you couldn't even get in the US, which was...
you mean for the whopping 11 games they produced for it?
Yeah.
64 DD.
Yes. It was a disk drive. That's what the DD stood for. Plopped on the bottom of it. Had a modem on the back. You could even do a subscription service. They knew from the very beginning no one was buying it. They had about 60 games in development for it. Pretty much all of them went to the actual N64 and also the GameCube, a couple of them.
And back to missteps. I mean, that was their answer for the fact that they missed the mark with CD-based gaming altogether. Right? Like, and to add insult to injury, these were CDs that were encapsulated in a proprietary case. Like, they really Nintendo just loved really doing that to people, and so it failed. It just, in our opinion, and especially as historians and preservationists looking back, N64 was a failure. It screwed them.
I just want to put this out there. This isn't something where, they're just throwing out stuff in the dark and they're like, I don't know, maybe it'll work. This is after the Sega Genesis. So this is after they had the Sega CD underneath it, the 32X on top of that, the Sonic and Knuckles, the Game Gear, the Sonic
Tower
game,
of Power.
the basic ultimate Voltron of Sega. And they saw that went miserable. They're like, hey, what if we did that too? That'd be pretty cool.
Hey, remember that mistake this other company made? Let's also make that mistake.
You mean
but
the
worse.
we put out of business? Because we didn't do what they did?
Nintendo. I think it's also important to point out that the N64 is very difficult to program for.
Yes.
A lot of third-party developers found it nearly impossible to put out the games they wanted to put out, and the software that they gave them was just hard to work on. And if you're a third-party developer and you're putting out games for other systems and they're selling well, why are you going to put an entire division on trying to work out the intricacies of this?
Larger profit margin? Why the hell would I work with you?
More freedom.
Yeah, more freedom, easier to program. Yeah, the list goes on and on.
I think we should also talk about this bad boy. I don't know. It's been talked to death. Everyone has an opinion on it, but just look at it. It's just a bizarre design.
I'm not a fan of it. I mean, I grew up. Right, I hate to break to you guys. I'm well into my 30s. I know you thought I was 18. I know, but I
What?
But I definitely spent a lot of time on the N64. It's my least favorite console. There's a few games on the system that I go right back to my teen years and have great memories of, and still love playing today. But I can count that on 2 hands.
Oh, sure. I think the N64 has some of the better games that launched a lot of. I mean,
They like
everybody.
games you can name.
They had such crap games, though. They just
Oh, God,
they
yeah, they had
slapped a
tons.
64 after half of them and then made them terrible.
They did, but to be fair, they did
Mega Man
pioneer
64,
the 3D platformer.
Castlevania 64,
That's pretty bad.
Mario 64.
Superman 64.
We're,
Oh, boy,
For all
Superman.
you guys who are not nerds or geeks like us, we're naming the worst ones ever.
Well, not Mario. That one's
No, Mario's good.
that one's
Their
pretty good.
best attempts to ruin every franchise that everyone grew up with. Because those were the big ones. You always, I mean, these are people that if you're watching Captain N the Game Master, then they're all in there. Simon Belmont, Mega Man with
Deep
that weird
pull.
voice. Yeah.
Well, I tell
Go
you
into the
what,
deep
They
track
also
on this
skipped over a huge number of their most famous. Metroid never made its way onto the
You're
N64.
absolutely right. I mean, one of the-
one. And this is
What
where
else?
they lost Final Fantasy.
They did. They lost Final
went to
Fantasy, which
Sony.
was a big seller for them.
definitely one of the biggest errors. But Nintendo didn't stop there.
No, they
Oh,
did not.
But wait, there's more.
There's more.
Because after the N64, we had a little thing called the
GameCube.
GameCube.
Well,
Now the GameCube.
you know what? Just before the GameCube,
Oh,
how could we forget, despite all of our best efforts? Look at that. Wow, are you in virtual reality right now?
I'm not even here right now.
Hey,
It's
you-
like I've got the lawnmower man right over there.
Look at his sleek curves.
Nothing says
That's
sexy.
My eyes
like
aren't so
a
good. Does that
virtual
say
boy.
The virtual boy.
Oculus Vive over there, or what is that?
I don't even know where to start with this. Okay, let's start with what they did. All right, they took the most amazing human being in gaming history, Gunpei Yokoi, who was the man who created the D-pad, the Game Boy, developed Game and Watch. The man defined gaming as we know it today, and they forced him to work on this god awful project, and he said, "No, we shouldn't do this."
And they
This
gave
is a
him the
bad
worst
idea."
deadline ever.
ever.
Hey, you guys know how virtual reality kind of only works a little right now in 2018? Well, they thought, hey, let's commit to that. Back in, when was it?
That would be 1995.
1995. Why, that's like a long time ago. I'm not going to do the math.
Let's talk about one thing that's interesting about
Went to
it.
public school, did you?
American education has done me well.
This is actually technically a 32-bit system, which I find fascinating. It also can give anybody a seizure. It will burn your retinas, make you
Not like they have seizure warnings on games nowadays, because any amount of flashing imagery can induce seizures in someone who's diagnosed with epilepsy.
this is legitimate.
This was knocking out
This is-
just regular people.
This is like a compact Pokemon episode that you stare through.
Yeah, it's really bad.
The Porygon of Nintendo consoles, if you will.
And this was like I said, this was the worst selling Nintendo console of all time.
Second.
Second. Oh, yeah.
DD.
Yeah, DD. Sorry, DD. But I guess mainstream, right? The DD wasn't mainstream. This hit all the markets.
I guess you can say
except for Europe.
standalone because
Yeah. That's true. This was in the Western and the Japanese markets for all intents and purposes. That is gaming. Especially at that time period. Granted, Europe and Brazil have huge gaming markets. If you're failing in the U.S. and the Japanese market, you just suck. And this just sucked. But I love collecting for it. There was a whopping
22.
22 titles for this.
And they weren't good.
No.
What were some of them?
Man.
Oh, well, in the U.S. it came bundled with Mario Tennis, so every unit that didn't sell had one of those in it.
Yeah, which means it's not rare.
It is not. That is the one you'll find all the time.
One of the most sought after is made after the worst flopping movie of all time, Waterworld. So that
Kevin
shows-
Costner,
Waterworld.
yeah.
You had 22 games, and one of them was based on the biggest flop in Hollywood history.
So if you're the one guy that saw Waterworld and you thought to yourself, what would that game be like in red? Only red.
Just red.
That was me. But
I think we should dig into that. For those of you who haven't seen what a Virtual Boy looks like on the inside, the way they got to their virtual reality was by having two different screens, and they use mostly the color red. And by mostly,
Entirely.
Entirely. And you would just technology was amazing. You would adjust the two separate lenses with this thing right here and this thing right here. So I mean, it literally created seizures, make you dizzy. Big mistake. Huge failure. Let down every.
I think it was
fan.
30,
Where's the
30
strap?
minutes. 30 minutes you could play usually without getting a splitting headache.
30 minutes is a lot. I mean, we're avid collectors, preservationists, call it what you want, hardcore geeks. We will play anything just to say we had the experience of it. We protect good games, we protect bad games. There's like 2 games on here that I would recommend playing, and you can probably do it for 15 minutes before you hate yourself.
I'm guessing it's WarioWare. Or, well, Wario.
In Boxer.
Yeah.
There's a Boxer.
Tolero.
It's really good. So another big error. This fine piece, though.
That is gorgeous.
Best looking console.
That is the most beautiful mistake, and I'm not quoting my parents on that one. This is just one of those weird things that never should have happened. Nintendo has a love-hate relationship with licensing their software to other people. So anything that's intellectual property on their part, which they have from time to time given to other people to do their little thing with. I'm thinking about the Mario Brothers movie.
And look how well that went.
I'm thinking about, the cartoons in the 90s. Where you've got Link there, The Legend of Zelda.
The Famicom, not the Famicom.
You've got the CDI.
The CDI, that was it.
With games,
CDI.
3
CDI.
Zelda games, and a Mario Hotel game in there.
Philip
Just
CDI
Rockstar
is so
games
bad,
all around.
It deserves its own episode, and it will get its own episode. I will promise you that.
I think those games are responsible for YouTube poop.
Yes, they really are. I think I just had an accident thinking about it, actually. Or it could just be
That's
because
what
it's so
that
hot here.
smell is.
It's pretty hot in here, by the way.
I think we should point out before we keep going. I'm sure people are screaming that this isn't a stock Nintendo GameCube.
No.
This
We're
is
referring
actually-
to it as if it were, but
Do
this
not
actually
adjust your
in
sets.
itself is not a mistake. The real mistake is that this product came out 2 years too late. This is the Panasonic Q. So Nintendo teamed up with Panasonic in 2001 to release this in Japan. This is a Japanese-only console. And what makes this really special, besides the fact that it's just gorgeous, it says hello and goodbye when you turn it on, and the beautiful blue LEDs, which you can't see at this particular moment. What makes this special is the fact that this actually was able to play DVDs. Why we're bringing up the GameCube as one of the biggest errors in Nintendo history is the fact that it wasn't compatible with DVDs, and you had PlayStation coming out, PlayStation 2.
yeah, PlayStation 2 came out, and a lot of people bought it. I know there was one in my household because it had a DVD player for
Oh,
under
yeah.
$200, which at the time was.
It's amazing. It brought gamers and non-gamers alike to the console. It's something that, when you had the PlayStation 2 in your household, dad and mom at that time were getting down with it too, because you could watch movies on it. Or any college kid who didn't want to have 2 separate
And this is at a time where not, DVD
weren't
players
cheap.
weren't just
No,
in everything.
no.
Nowadays, your
You go to the
VCR,
thrift store and you
your
get one for
microwave plays.
$8.
which is too much. We normally find our best picking literally out of the garbage, but that's another day.
Now, the Xbox had one too, but you had to buy that remote attachment. That was the only way you could play DVDs on it, because that made
Oh,
sense.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
a whole other episode.
In Microsoft's defense, though, PlayStation the original PlayStation 2, also had the same thing. You had to actually buy a separate remote and and a sensor for it that would plug into the memory card port. But when they came out with their slim version, the PS2 Slim, the receiver was built right in, so you could take that same said remote and it would work with that. This right here is, in my opinion, the Panasonic Cube, probably the best looking and one of my favorite consoles of all time. Like I said, the biggest mistake Nintendo made was just the fact that at the time of the GameCube's development, Japan still, as a country, really, really preferred VHS, even though DVD was already out at that point. So they just didn't listen to what was coming.
They also just didn't go in any trend. They went with mini discs.
Yes, they went with
What?
because
Lot
they
of-
were
lot of problems.
proprietary.
A lot of problems with mini discs,
Very
like
Never,
size.
never had a problem with any of mine.
Yeah.
Worked perfectly.
Yeah, they work great, except the fact that your competitors can give you a better product. It's just amazing. So yeah, Nintendo, like I said, has made many mistakes.
What's interesting about the GameCube, I don't think we have one here, but the GameCube controller has
Some
stood the
people
test
have-
of time.
oh,
People,
yeah.
GameCube controller. When I first looked at it, I actually had a reaction more so than with the N64, thinking, man, this thing is really odd looking. But after using it, I was like, oh, this is a really great design. I will give that as a win.
And I think anyone who enjoys Super Smash Brothers,
there's only one. It makes no sense, but it's so
to the point where
the test of time.
Each console that's come out since the GameCube, there have been now 3. The last 2, and I'm betting the Switch will have some sort of.
It already works.
But a GameCube, they made it. The Wii had the GameCube adapters right in the top,
Built
and then
right
the
in.
Wii U had the special GameCube controller ports that sold with Super Smash. They knew.
Yeah.
That's
Brilliant.
Nintendo was listening then,
They
evidently.
can't do it better. I think some of the, I don't know, maybe talk some more of the more noteworthy errors that Nintendo's made that we don't have in front of us.
Sure, I think everyone knows the Wii was a standout success, a huge smash hit for Nintendo. Nobody thought it would be, what with that name, and just the wonky 2 nunchuck looking design of the controllers, but it swept the world by storm.
The Wii was a fluke because it tapped into a market, an unforeseen market, which was the non-gamers.
Old people.
Retirement homes.
Retirement homes.
The Wii U was another huge letdown.
People that like bowling.
The Wii U, just the name.
Well,
Way to not distance yourself from the prior.
People were confused. People were legitimately confused when the Wii U came out. They're like, is this just an upgraded version of the Wii?
Because remember, they had the Wii Fitness board, they had the Wii, all the different sports attachments.
It's another controller.
Oh, it's a TV control, you hold it in your hands.
But I mean, it used the same control. It used Wii modes on the Wii U,
Which they put in the commercials, which further confused, grandmas.
and this
who
is.
they want to sell to.
I want to say this is several years after the fail of HD DVD, because it was too confusing for people because they thought it was the same as DVD, and then Blu-ray won.
Yep.
So Nintendo's like, you know what? What if we do that same thing?
Brilliant idea. Let's just do that. Let's just do what Sega just did.
Yeah.
What was do you remember the code name for the Wii U?
The
I think it was the Revolution.
was that the Wii?
Was it?
I just like
Because there was Dolphin. Yeah.
The Dolphin, yeah.
I think Wii was Revolution, and then Wii U, the code name was Poop Emoji. I want to say.
I wish we had one we could show to you. I like to think the Wii U is like the prototype for the Switch, because when you get your hands on a Switch and you look at the Wii U pad, they're similar enough. They're like, okay, I see what they kind of wanted, but were limited hardware-wise.
This whole conversation we're having is one. Congratulations to Nintendo for taking back the #1 seat in gaming. We do love you, but if you're listening out there, Nintendo,
And I know you are.
and you probably are. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
We're important people doing important things.
You know it.
Please remember these, and don't do that to the Switch because you're already screwing up.
I'm just waiting for, you can attach the Joy-Cons on and off. I'm waiting for, the ridiculous, here's a tennis racket that you slide into place.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean like some weird cardboard you have to slip them into? Is that funky enough for you?
I understand that we might be talking to people who are not totally into the gaming, and we're trying to reach other audiences. But yeah, Nintendo's done something pretty interesting. One, I want to say it's innovative, but for the adult audience, it's just not cool. Which is the basically
Nintendo
Labo.
Labo. Yeah.
I have to commend Nintendo for selling cardboard to people for $70. I mean, as a snake oil salesman technique,
It's cardboard.
That's iced Eskimos.
pretty amazing,
It's-
actually.
Like your system
It's
comes
just
with
cardboard.
cardboard.
I mean,
Like,
granted,
and I
it's
blame us,
cut into the
honestly.
shapes, and there's
I blame
some of those builds
collectors
are
and
pretty-
I
preservationists.
was gonna say collectors. Yeah, we're freaks for cardboard.
Yeah,
They finally
like
caught on.
70-something bucks for cardboard. Yeah, I paid more than that.
Maybe Nintendo
Not
was
and not
listening.
just 70 because it's 60 for the first kit and
Right.
then it's 70 for the robot
It's
kit,
like,
which is separate.
I
And
need a
they're-
little bug. I
and
need
they
a
named-
piano. I need a robot.
That
Burp, burp,
first
burp.
kit is named Variety Kit Number 1, which to me says that there will be more.
Oh,
There
there's
will
a
be
lot
2
coming.
and 3, so it'll be by the end $400 worth of cardboard.
Here's how you
I
save
feel like
money.
we're gonna have to bring these in for
You
the next
go to the
episode.
post
A Lobo?
office. You get one of the shipping containers. You take that. You stick it on your Roomba. There, you save $70. You're done.
Also throw your Joy-Cons in there.
Just throw it at the
throw 'em
Roomba.
right in.
The
Yeah,
Joy-Cons. But,
stick an amiibo on top of it. You're good to go.
Trash Nintendo so much.
But they're so good.
Oh, they give you such
Ah.
good
It's
material.
because when they make a good console, they knock it out of the park. I think the Switch, and we're going to talk about this in another episode, the Switch is just top to bottom, just a phenomenal system. Other than the mistakes.
Other than
that
all the
they're
mistakes, it's phenomenal.
starting to make with their online service.
What online service?
The-
You mean my cell phone?
Yeah.
You know what fascinated me the most about the Switch, and this is kind of interesting topic. When obviously Sony PlayStation took first place and Xbox took second, and Nintendo found themselves the third largest game developer. Manufacturer for home consoling. Their strong point, what they always held the monopoly on, was handheld gaming. But
Yes.
It is fascinating to me that you took that market away from yourself because that is your console, but at the same time, it was brilliant, right?
I gotta say, it's brilliant. They saw.
I mean,
everybody else.
The
They
3DS
saw the market
had,
going away
had an
because of cell
8-year
phones.
lifespan, though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they didn't, they were either going to have to come out with a new one,
Yeah.
and they went, no, let's not do that. Let's
It is
put them
brilliant.
together.
It's brilliant. I'm excited. It was the first time I was excited. You know what I was excited about too with the Switch? I guess we're just going to turn into successes. I was excited, and especially in our age bracket, the fact that they were mini cartridge games.
And they
physical
taste
copies.
terrible.
Yeah, they taste terrible. They do taste. They do
Made
taste
with a
like
bitterant
doo-doo.
agent.
They put a bittering agent into it so that kids wouldn't put it in their mouth and swallow. But I hate to break it to you, you made adults do that. Can't tell you how many YouTube videos I've seen of respected adults
Putting those
things
things.
in their mouth.
They not only did that, but they took a lot of games from the Wii U library that didn't sell, and they brought them to Switch. And now Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has outsold Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. I know I bought both.
Yeah.
The same
It's
with
fantastic
Donkey Kong
game.
Country, Tropical Freeze. I don't know the metrics on that. I don't know if it's outsold the other one, but I'm willing to bet.
It's pretty
And now they've
good.
got Hyrule Warriors coming out in this week or next week. I'm sure that'll do very well.
Wasn't it nice to see Street Fighter on a launch? I mean, like
It was.
Yeah, I'll be real. Like, the one thing I'll say is that he took this old school gamer and it got him excited about a new Nintendo product again. So that was cool. But they're screwing up.
I'll tell you what didn't do that. Snipper clips.
No.
Bomberman.
Oh, Bomberman! I forgot that even came
What
out.
was that?
I was shocked.
What was
I
that?
was shocked that Bomberman made a resurgence. I mean, I
But at
love it
least
for
that wasn't
nostalgia.
like the only thing that they
Yes.
came out with.
Yeah.
They had a pretty good lineup when they came out. They had Breath of the Wild, although that was on the Wii U as well.
Yeah.
And then they shortly after had Mario Odyssey, which
No, they've got the
outstanding.
titles. They've got the pipeline. They got Smash Brothers coming out. It's a fantastic system.
they're saying they
With
want to
some
sell.
Smash is huge.
I think it's 20 million copies or units, something like that.
I would be lying if
Yeah.
I told you I knew the number, but I mean, that's how,
They've
that's how
set a very
successful
large
it is.
goal for themselves. I know it's
Yeah.
double whatever they've sold now, so I'm very excited to see what comes out at E3. Like, what is this holiday season? We know Smash is coming. I'm assuming Pokemon at some point. They've said it. They don't know when.
I just think the fact that you have to pay an annual subscription and saving games is just bad.
That is.
I don't.
Because it just looks bad on so many levels. I mean, when you now have the number one selling console in the world, and now you're trying to milk them for a little bit more. I don't know. I'm just not cool with it.
I'm just putting this out there. Just sort of a summation of everything else. This system, you plug a memory card into the back of the controller. Bring that to your friend's house. This system, you plug a memory card into the front of the system. You bring that to your friend's house. This, you don't let your friends know you have, because they will think less of you, but you save to the
I own
cartridge.
4 of them. For the record, I own 4 of those.
Oh.
I'm a sadomasochist. I like
That
this
doesn't
stuff.
even seem possible.
But but you're right though. I mean, like he did it.
Oh, we brought out.
He did it.
We brought out the.
I just found that lying around.
Let's
Don't worry
just
about that.
Let's just make some room for this, guys. I didn't think we were actually going to do this. We brought it. We didn't think we were going to do this.
But
Let's
yeah,
talk
no,
about-
perfect way to sort of sum things up on the whole show. Just show this thing
just get the
and
knock the
have a
dust
little
off
bit of a
it.
warning to Nintendo. We
This
love
is-
you, but don't let this define you.
This is Nintendo right
Yeah,
here.
this is a quick little background on this piece, guys. This is something that's actually pretty rare. Talk about multiple failures. This is a store display, not just any store display. This is a Blockbuster Video. Virtual Boy.
That's an old-fashioned sentence.
It sure is. Blockbuster Video. For all those kids out there, you couldn't just get your movies on the interweb. You actually had to go out there and rent them.
Like Redbox?
Yeah, like Redbox,
Wow.
but with physical, tangible material.
Like a red box that
Oh.
took up a whole store.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. It was like 10,000 square feet of Redbox. This was put on the display so people could rent the Virtual Boy
For $10.
$10.
And you got given a gift certificate for $10 off buying the console when you did that.
Oh, and you know what? Actually, while we're talking about it, we did mention the N64 controller. Just a little FYI, I know we mentioned it before. The Virtual Boy did come out before the N64 by 1 year. And if you look at the controller, you can kind of start to see the evolution of the N64 controller. Also, you can see the evolution of basically the GameCube controller, how these kind of came out of it. So there was something kind of good that came out of this
And if
system.
you look even closer, you can see that it uses a Super Nintendo power cord, so there's that.
It truly does. It truly does. But yeah, this is I guess we can leave it here.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
horrible. And I paid a lot of money for that thing because I have an addiction.
So I think we'll wrap it up around here. Just Nintendo, we love it, but it makes some poor choices, and this is like emblematic of that.
I don't even know
Just
what that word means.
Just a real garbage, plastic
Now you're talking my
kerfuffle.
language. It's horrific.
I'm hopeful though. I think I'm hopeful that Nintendo has pulled out of its death spiral. I mean, there was a time during the Wii U's life cycle that I thought they'd stop making consoles. I thought they were going to become
Disney
like
was going to
Got
buy them.
close.
I thought they would either go to the mobile market with Super Mario Run and the Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem and all that.
Prior to the Nintendo Switch
Pokemon
truly
Go.
getting announced, there was definitely debate in the gaming community, which we know a little bit about. That was Nintendo actually going to pull out? Was Nintendo going to become the Sega? Where it just became a software company as opposed to a hardware.
And we saw
Was
what happened.
Nintendo going to be the Sega of video games?
I guess before we sign off, I guess we're going to do another episode kind of following this up. I think it's actually going to be about the Switch. It's going to be the rise of Nintendo.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all the things the Switch got right. We'll talk about, maybe by then, some more news will come out. We're knocking on the door of E3. Nintendo never does their stuff during E3, so maybe there'll be a direct, who knows, with them.
Hey, by the way, how's that pillow treating you?
It's great. I love
Just
this
throwing it
pillow.
out there. We'll talk about that next week.
Get excited. Yeah, do you have anything else?
I'm Kevin.
That's Kevin.
I'm Jay.
He's Jay. I'm Pat. And that's it. Oh, right. This is Pop Culture Preservation.
PCP.
You know me.